Hi,
Hello. Hi.
I'm glad you could join me today.
No, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to join.
Yeah, okay, so let's get started. First, we'll do introductions. I'll go first. So I'm Ivanka, a high school student, and I'm really passionate about climate change and sustainability. And I first got interested in methane when I did a research project in reducing methane emissions from livestock at the U of M. And then I also did one at Cornell University, and those were super fun. And then I started MethaneMatters to help educate people about methane emissions and how to mitigate them and just their impacts from different sources. And so I'm super excited to have you on the podcast. And I also wrote this book about methane that goes more in depth. And so that's really exciting. Yeah.
Oh, that's really exciting, Ivanka. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah. So regarding my introduction, right? So currently, I'm an assistant professor here at University of Connecticut, UConn, in ruminant nutrition and system modeling, right? So basically, I got trained into ruminant nutrition, and I did my PhD in Wisconsin medicine. And before that, I was grad student in Europe too, doing my master's there. But originally, I'm from Bangladesh, where I did study my undergrad in animal science. So I have been in this space for quite a while, right? Just one thing to tell you is that uh, how I did started studying animal science. Actually, I grew up in a family farm, and I'm proud to be uh, like the kids from farm, right? And eventually, I wanted to study human medicine, but I ended up being animal science. I think that seems like a right fit for me, and that's how I got evolved into it, and then I became academician. So that's how I have been here.
That's cool. So do most of the livestock in Bangladesh and India live in like small farms like that?
Yeah. So actually, I did most my experiences was in Bangladesh until my grad school, and then I went to Europe for my masters and came to US for further studies like PhD and postdoc, and then became professor here. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So tell me about your lab. Like, what does your team look like?
Sure. Yeah. So my lab is composed of couple of grad students, PhD and masters, and few undergrads as well working in the lab. As you know, if you're a professor, one of the excellent things that is that you got to work with many people, right? And a grad student is kind of the wheel of your lab. So without grad student effort, you cannot make progress. So we have an incredible group of students doing various exciting projects, and everyone has their own project, but they also work together in a team setting, right? Helping each other to learn from each other, and so that's my lab. And other than that, I also collaborate with a lot of other faculties, both from UConn and outside. So when I say my lab, of course, it's my contribution. At the same time, my research is very interdisciplinary. So we do work collaboratively with other faculty and researchers across.
Okay. And what kind of backgrounds do those people have?
Well, most of them have either animal science with some data science background, some biology background, and so given that we do work in the biology, so one of the unique thing that I need or skill set that I need in my lab is having understanding of biology, focusing animal science. At the same time, we do modeling. So I need student having skill set in statistics and basic statistical modeling, as well as we do life cycle assessment. So I don't expect them to learn before coming to my lab, but having some experiences with those kind of holistic modeling would be a positive, of course, and they have some of those have those skill set. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So what are some of the projects you're doing?
Um, so That's exciting to share some of the project, right? So we have been doing a couple of very cool projects, and I will mention a couple of them, right? So one of the project um, is that we have been trying to understand various diet of the ruminants because we work with dairy cattle or other ruminant species, right? So we're trying to understand how diet and feed additives. So feed additive is the tiny amount of chemicals or natural product that we add to the animal's diet to mainly reduce methane emission, because I work in the methane space, right?
Yeah.
And so we try to test those mitigation strategies to see whether they really reduce methane from the livestock system or not, right? And one of the unique things that we have been doing compared to other researchers is that we're trying to understand how various feed additives interact with various scenarios. So some of them work in certain scenarios, may not work with other scenarios. We're trying to understand those interactions using both animal experiment as well as holistic farm approach, mainly to understand if there are any trade-off. In layman words, you can say, let's say you have a methane mitigation strategy, right? If that can reduce methane emission, does it affect productivity of the animals negatively or profitability negatively? So we really need to understand those because farmers would like to have things that can boost productivity as well, right? So that's what one of the area. The other area that I mentioned is that we also do life cycle assessment, meaning that we try to understand food from whole life perspective. What is the impact of a food if you start from the beginning to the end of life of that food product, right? So we try to understand how, if you produce milk or meat from in the US system versus in other production systems, or within the US system, if you go from one state to other region of the countries, right? What happens with their production systems? How does that affect? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to do two projects. One of them is in the Midwest in the US to understand how variation between farms affect carbon footprint of milk. And we also have a project in Bangladesh, South Asia, right? And we're trying to understand that system is quite different than system we have here. So we are trying to see how what is the carbon footprint of that system. So those are a couple of them we have been currently working on.
That's cool. So you mentioned the project about feed additives. Which feed additives are you looking at?
That's very interesting questions, Ivanka. So actually, there are a couple of them we have been working on because our goal is to trying to understand which one works with what condition, right?
Mhm.
So a couple of example I can give you. So we have been studying quite a while on isoacid. So isoacid is naturally produced in the stomach of a cow. We call rumen, one compartment of the stomach, right? And that has been shown in our study that can improve productivity of the animals. So we're trying to understand isoacid along with seaweed. You might know other researchers also have been studying. In our case, we're trying to understand the interaction between seaweed species and diet and those scenarios. So those are a couple of them. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Bangladesh, what's like the differences you found between like the variations of farmers?
Well, I don't know how much because at your stage, I don't expect you know the system because you don't study focus on animal science, of course, yet, right?
Yeah.
So one of the unique difference is that in the US, we have very confined and then commercialized intensive production systems.
Mhm.
Where intensive meaning that you provide a lot of inputs, you get a lot of output, like high input and high output. Whereas if you go to in South Asia, like Bangladesh, India, and some parts of other continents, like in Africa, they have a low input system, right? The productivity of the animals is really low. So that being said, oftentimes when we compare carbon footprint, those countries have very high carbon footprint. That's where, but it's not a fair comparison. So that's what we're trying to do. Is there a fair way to compare those two systems? Because those two systems are quite different, and we see that there is a huge difference in carbon footprint between two systems, but we want to account for other factors so that we can really fairly compare those results between systems.
Yeah. Do you have any other challenges doing projects in South Asia?
Right now, those are the couple of projects we have been working now. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So AI is a really growing space right now. So do you use any of these technologies in your research?
Well, that's a very interesting questions, right? Everybody's nowadays used in one or other ways of AI, right? It's one of the tools that oftentimes even you want to hide, you cannot hide. People will be using, right? So we have to harness the power of AI to boost our capability, right? So we don't do research directly with the AI tool, but we have project that I mentioned, a couple of the project, right? We're trying to find right dose of sedatives and right combinations and take into account multiple different factors. So it requires a lot of data and multi-objective optimization, right? And so we have been collaborating with computer scientists and using at some extent of machine learning and AI related tools to help us to better understand the systems and sedatives. And yes, we have been using at some extent. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. And then what advice would you have for high schoolers or people like me who want to go into a similar field?
Oh my goodness. In terms of advice, I would say rather not advice. I would say a couple of things. It's very important, right? So if you think about animal science or egg system or methane space, right? There are a lot of information out there nowadays, given the technologies and the age of AI, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that young generation in future generation should focus on is trying to understand the credibility of those information. I think that's one of the unique things. The second thing is, I would say, is learning skill set, and that will keep the future generation the new skill set or unique skill set that cannot be replaced by AI, but AI can boost your skill set, right? So those kind of skill set can help you to be ahead of the game, right? And being aware of application of AI, although we oftentimes might not be interested in AI because there are a lot of positive and the cons also, right? So we have to really understand the application of AI and how future might be shaped with the AI. So being aware of application of AI in overall food systems might be interesting area to think about in future. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then I have another question. So what are some of the trends you see in the climate space with methane from livestock?
In terms of trends, are you saying the research trends or mitigation or the production trend, emission trend?
In emissions and also in research.
Okay, so you know that a lot of researchers, so I'm one of them, right, have been working in this space in the last 2 decades or so, right? And we have been making progress in terms of improving the efficiency and productivity of animal agriculture. That has contributed quite a bit. And there are a lot of research and out there that has demonstrated that we have made substantial progress in methane intensity, meaning that per unit of product or milk, we have made substantial progress. However, in terms of total emission from the systems we have not made much progress because our total production of food is also increasing. And in future, demand for food like animal originated food will increase. That might contribute to more total emission unless we make and take the measures that we have been trying to take, right? So I think I would say this: we have made substantial progress, but we have to keep going and making sure that our planet is eco-friendly, and we need to really take care of it, right? And I think at the same time, we also have to think about that animal agriculture contribute to climate change a little bit, not huge, but contributes. At the same time, it is also affected by climate change. So we cannot skip it, but we have to study and better understand it and how to cope with it in future. That would be the things that I would want the future generation to focus on. And of course, the AI and other advanced technologies can be a leverage point for us to make progress and making our planet better.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and that's why I want to go into this field.
Excellent.
Do
Excellent.
you have anything else to say before we end this?
I would say, like, we need people like you and other future generation people are very ahead of us. Like, they're very aware of things like methane, right? At your stage of life, I have not heard of methane much and climate related things, but you have been doing what you're supposed to do. I think you're doing a great job. I think keep it up. Yeah.
Thanks.
So, yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time to join me. It was really fun talking to you.
I really appreciate you having me for this podcast, and thank you very much.
Yeah, it was fun. Okay, have a good day.
You too. Thank you, Banka. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.